If you can think of anything more Y2K than a dude with frosted tips racing a hoverboard around Neo Tokyo to the sound of pounding techno beats, you be sure to let me know. Truly, Trickstyle is a time capsule that takes us all the way back to the launch of the Dreamcast. And being a launch title, this is probably one of the first Dreamcast games I ever played. I used to get those Dream On demos that came with the UK Dreamcast magazine, you see, and I played the absolute heck out of this one, really just scooting around the track and enjoying the motions more than anything else. When I did finally get the game, I was crap at it, and so instead I spent my time playing Soul Calibur and Blue Stinger. But this year I decided to revisit and see if I was any good, and I'm glad that I did. As you've probably gathered, it's a racing game where a bunch of zany characters zoom around futuristic London, Tokyo and Manhattan, pulling out wild tricks and just generally going a bit mad. And I was thinking that that's all it was too. No need to have a big narrative and a novelty racing game, right? But if anything, there is actually too much lore in Trickstyle. Look at all this stuff. Props to Criterion for going so hard on this. We got a beautiful full colour manual here, all written in character with no less than 6 pages dedicated to the story. On top of that, each character gets their own bio with an unnecessarily extensive backstory. There's more world building here than we get in the Shenmue manual. But we are here to talk about the game, so I'll just give you the cliff notes on this one. Post-apocalyptic future where governments have collapsed and big corporations rule over the populace. I'm gonna bet that sounds familiar so far, but here's the twist. Rather than war or plague or poverty or whatever else you might think would be bothering people in this situation, they're just bored. So they all take up hoverboarding. And looking to capitalise on this, the Jugaku Corporation holds a big tournament every year to test the skills of these boarders. And the big prize, the thing that they are all training and skating so hard to win, is to become the mayor. I am not shitting you, this man wants to be the mayor, that is what they are trying to win. I'm gonna give this story points for novelty if nothing else. But of course that's all just window dressing to explain the wacky cybertech world we find ourselves in, and the play is where this game really shines, so what do? Well, once you've chosen your favourite character from a very varied selection of international stereotypes, you can drop right into the velodrome and practice, enter races or compete in various challenge matches. It is worth taking a few minutes to talk to the guide and get to grips with the basic tricks, as you actually do need them all for navigation. And I think this is where I got frustrated with this game as a kid, because I didn't have the patience to go through the practical uses for the different tricks. I didn't really bother learning any of the techniques, I just kept entering races again and again and getting my ass kicked. But once you know that you can do a spin to get a bit more height on your jumps, or you can luge to improve speed and grind mag rails, you can drill forward to smash through windows and barriers, it really opens the tracks up and lets you explore all those tasty shortcuts. Track layouts here are not a million miles away from the sort of stuff we'd be seeing in Sonic Riders later on, what with all the different routes available depending on your speed, your jump height or your skill at stunting on them. And keeping with the Sonic references, the main strategy I found effective for winning races was basically to always go away from the main track and look around for shortcuts, which is a very Sonic R type move. You are probably going to need some strategy for this one too, or at very least some patience, because some of these races are fucking brutal. The tracks are oftentimes narrow and windy, so it's handy to have a few practice runs under your belt where you can memorise the jumps and turns, but even then the opponents in this game are bloody relentless, so you really just have to keep at it. However, far from being very frustrating, which I'm sure that sounds, I actually found this game to be incredibly satisfying. I beat the whole thing in just a couple of long sittings, fully immersing myself in the world, and it's got a great flow to it once you can get used to the kind of fiddly control scheme. The novelty doesn't really wear out either, because you aren't just racing, you also do challenges like time trials or capture the base type stuff, and trick sessions where you need to rack up the best score in a single heat. So we got a little bit of Tony Hawk's DNA in there too, I guess. Aesthetically, I think this game does a pretty great job creating a cool looking future tech world for us to race through, and most of the tracks have a fairly distinct identity, smashing through the face of Big Ben in London or grinding up the suspension bridge in Manhattan. Lots of cool little moments like that really stuck with me. I would say that character design is a bit less of a triumph, they all look like big chunky Quake 3 boys. That is just personal preference of course, and it did nothing to stop my enjoyment of the game. But you know damn well I just want the whole thing to be oversaturated and cel-shaded, and that's just how I roll. It's a short game too, which is not really a negative for me because you know how I feel about small games with good replay value, but it does end up leaving you wanting more. And on that note, Criterion did go on to make a spiritual successor for the PS2 called Airblade, which I haven't played yet, but it looks dope as hell. And of course, boarding type games were all the hotness back in the 6th gen, whether you were skating, surfing, snowing, waking or hovering, we did love to see a good board. For my money, Sonic Riders seems like the franchise that's taken the most cues from Trickstyle, and you know we gotta talk about those games one of these days. But for now, my friends, I think we're done here. Go play Trickstyle if you want a raw, unfiltered blast of late 90s nostalgia, and you don't mind a bit of a challenge. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please let the YouTube algorithm know. Take it easy out there folks, and I shall see you in the next one.